All right, today I'm going to practically walk you through how I think about designing a mesocycle, showing you exactly what I'm doing for the July 22nd 4-ish week mesocycle. The first things that I think about are priority and then how many times a week can I train. We'll get into this a little bit later, but we're using a 2-a-day paradigm here on some of these days. That's a personal preference to kind of make sure I'm having higher quality sets. The first priority that I've identified for myself is arms, because arms, you get it. Priority number 1, arms. Your first thought here is, should arms come first in the workout? There's sometimes in terms of priority where that's absolutely the case. The way this mesocycle kind of worked out, I didn't end up putting it first in the workout, but I try to put it pretty early in the workout, and there's a lot more dedicated work than what I'm used to. Typically I do very little arms, and it's at the end of a mesocycle, or at the end of a workout. So, first up, curls, bicep curls obviously, and then reverse curls, loosely hit the arms, but those are a little bit more for forearms. So there we have a lot of dedicated volume on day 1. Day 2, skull crushers. This is one of the first mesocycles where I'm implementing direct tricep work. They've always been a strong suit for me, but we're kind of leaning into it now. So again, they're not coming super early because I don't want to give up the fatigue cost and take away from my other larger muscle groups, but we are giving them more volume. That's the first thing that we're going to look at here, is giving it more volume. The 2 big levers that you can pull is more volume and putting it earlier in the workout. I'm right now giving it more volume. Curls, day 3. Skull crushers, day 4. Curls, reverse curls, day 5. Close grip bench press, so now it's coming really early. And then skull crushers. Biceps and triceps are getting hit with more volume and a very high frequency. I'm training biceps directly 3 days a week and triceps directly 3 days a week, with even more exercises. Again, if you want more growth beyond this, consider putting them early in your program, but this is where I'm starting and where I'm starting to notice a lot of success. Next priority is going to be shoulders. I have absolutely no issue developing front delts or rear delts. We're looking more for specifically lateral delts, so you can get kind of that capped shoulder look, make you look a little bit wider from the front. So pretty early on, you're going to see a high frequency of lateral raises. We're doing lateral raises 3 times a week. Again, the levers that you can pull for this, higher volume and frequency, we're putting them earlier in the workout. In this one, again, we decided to go with higher volume and frequency. Again, allowing the big, heavier prime, allowing the barbell compound movements typically to still come first in the workout. Next priority that we've identified is forearms. Specifically, I'm looking for those forearms where if you're wearing a shirt that's like 2 sizes too big, but your forearms are still out, people can kind of tell that you lift. I've never done direct forearm work in my life. So we're starting out a little bit conservative, and because they're not very fatiguing, we're kind of just tacking them on at the end of the workout. Again, this is kind of a mediocre attempt at this. If you wanted to be a little bit more serious about this, you could put them at the beginning of your workout. How we're tackling this in terms of a priority is we're giving it more volume than we've ever done before. So we went from 0 sets a week to we're doing some type of forearm work with reverse curls, wrist curls, and reverse curls 3 days a week. We're going to monitor our progress or stimulus to fatigue ratio. We're going to see how that goes for us. Typically, I mentally tend to respond quite well if the workout gets a little bit easier as it goes on, meaning I don't want to put pull-ups close to the end of my program and spend the first 30 minutes of my workout doing forearm curls and other stuff that might not be that fatiguing, but there's a type of like mental time bomb in my brain in terms of being in the gym where I just start to get hungry because I'm really dieted down, really irritated. So I typically like and perform better when my workouts get a little bit easier at the end of it. This is a personal preference. If you find that doesn't bother you, absolutely throw your highest priority stuff first, and you can really change that order. Next priority is going to be abs. Again, we're solving this problem with frequency and volume. If these tend to not be a responding muscle group for me, I would typically start, again, putting them earlier in the program. But you'll see here candlesticks 3 days a week. And we've done very little direct ab training in the past outside of compound basics like squats, deadlifts, etc. But now we're adding in some direct work and we're tackling this problem with volume and frequency. Okay. Outside of looking jacked, a couple things that I'm really passionate about are basketball and golf. So I want to make sure that my lower leg is healthy, especially since I'm really ramping up the step count as I'm dieting down. We've dealt with shin splints in the past and a little bit of Achilles tendonitis stuff, so we really want to monitor that. A couple things that we're doing to kind of solve this would be calf raises, specifically standing calf raises on a couple different days. The first calf raise that we're going to do is specifically sets of 5. Heavier weight is shown in the literature to be much more helpful for adapting tendon strength and resiliency and actually adding cross-sectional area to it. So this is literally a 3 to 5 RM, very heavy, deep pause, deep stretch, and then a 3-second hold at the top, because it's called creep. When you're really contracting and pulling on that tendon, it'll eventually start to stretch out a little bit and loosen up, and that's shown to be stimulative to tendon cross-sectional area. So deep stretch, pauses at the top, very heavy. That's going to add a lot of mass to your tendon. So we're doing this to make sure Achilles is not my weakest link. And then we're doing sets of 10 on calves just so we don't burn ourselves into the ground. You can do too much. And this is just to add a little bit of volume, get a little bit of lighter work, a little bit of recovery, and build some muscle mass through there. Tibialis anterior, we're doing that on 2 different days. Tibialis anterior is thought of as like a miracle cure to like everything, including like polio and cancer. It likely doesn't do a lot, and it's very hard to load, but in terms of how your tendons interact on your lower leg bones, in terms of things like shin splints, it has shown in some studies to be slightly preventative. So I've thrown it in because it takes 2 minutes for the potential fringe benefits, though it's not exactly 100% clear. Next priority would be lats. Typically, I don't present very wide from the front. I tend to have a thick back, so we're doing a lot more lat work this training cycle, and how we're accomplishing that is a lot more vertical pulls. So pull-ups, lat pull-downs. First exercise, second exercise, early on. Close grip lat pull-down, pull-ups, lat pull-down. So 5 different exercises with a high degree of volume and a high degree of exercise placement for our lat development. These also do a really great job of doubling for adding a little bit of shoulder size and a little bit of bicep size. So they're kind of tying in to some of our key goals. They kind of fulfill a lot of different things, and that's why, again, compound movements that you can progressively overload tend to be where you want to structure the core of your program. If you'll notice, I pretty much always start out with compound basic movements, whether it be barbell machines, really get the best bang for my buck there, training a lot of muscles, getting a lot of stimulus, doing a lot of growth, and then we're kind of sprinkling in our other priorities here. If you wanted to be a little bit more aggressive with these priorities, you could not put these barbell compounds first and put these priority muscles first. But again, since my compounds specifically kind of sprinkle in effective reps on all of these different things, I love having them first. It also allows my workout to get a little bit easier as it goes on, which we've already talked about is mentally good for me. Last priority here with this training protocol is going to be full body. So we want to make sure that we're kind of doing a little bit of well-rounded work, even if it's not necessarily maximal, so that we're not kind of leaving anything behind. My legs tend to be really, really high responders. I'm going to be honest, just like you, I train my legs really crappily for a long portion of my life, and I just have bigger legs than most of my peers with very little effort. It's not the worst problem to have, I suppose, but that's why we're typically also not giving them a lot of volume. For the current stage of life that I'm in, I'm training my legs a little bit more like an athlete. Not a ton of volume, doing a little bit things that are more on the heavier side, so we might dip down all the way to like sets of 5, just because, again, I am involved in sport. And then we're training the rest of our musculature more like a bodybuilder for aesthetics, essentially. So I want to be able to beat you on the basketball court and then also look like a lift outside of the basketball court. So this is our order of priorities. Generally, when I'm structuring a mesocycle, I'll kind of go through the rough framework of compounds first, sprinkle in isolations, and how I kind of go about placing these things is kind of looking at my order of priorities. So we're giving a lot of volume to arms, shoulders, forearms, and abs, at least a lot more than what we were doing. And then lower leg, lats, and lastly full body are kind of getting less and less resources. As you go down the order of importance in terms of your priorities, that's the less effort that you can give it. If I were to keep adding on priorities here, it would get even less and less attention from me. If I also wanted to do grip strength or something as like another goal, that might get one exercise on like a Saturday or something, because we just don't have the recovery capacity to handle this. Also, the reason these exercises got split into 2 days for me, as you can see here, this is session 1, session 2, session 1, session 2. The reason they got split into 2-a-day training protocols for me is because of this added emphasis on arms, shoulders, forearms, and abs. Typically, I wouldn't have done curls, reverse curls, or the ab stuff, and then I could just tack legs on at the end of my workout, because I'm not showing it a ton of love, but I still want to get a little bit of work in there. Because of this added emphasis on more bodybuilding style training and trying to get a little bit bigger, I noticed that I was too gassed by the end of my workout to give a good leg effort. So then the logical sequence after that is to split legs into a different day. I didn't want to give legs so much attention that they would get their own day. So I started adding them essentially as the PM session, where we're probably still going to be a little bit gassed, but we're going to be doing a little bit better. And we're really just doing 1 to 2 exercises, cycling over the course of 4 days. Because my legs are hyper responders, even this little bit of volume is probably minimum effective volume for me. So I will grow, but I'll grow kind of slow. But that's all I really want out of this. I want to be athletic, a little bit of growth, and it will keep up with my upper body. If that ever stops being the case, you might see me do some dedicated, a little bit harder leg training. But for now, this is kind of where we're at. This is the order of priorities, and that's how you can kind of go through looking at your goals, looking at how much time you can dedicate in the gym, solving some of the problems you might have, and how you can kind of go through solving those top to bottom. So again, frequency, goals, flesh out the compounds, and then start sprinkling your isolations and giving the highest priority to your biggest goal, and then giving less and less priority as you kind of go down. All of this stuff will be around sets of 8 to 12 unless otherwise specified. And we're going to be starting at roughly a 3 repetition in reserve model, adding a little bit of load in most instances, and having a descending repetitions in reserve scheme. So training closer and closer to failure every single week until we're training to absolute failure, and then we're probably deloading after that. Hopefully this helps. Hopefully you like getting a little bit of a sneak peek insight into how I program my training. Again, this program is specifically for me. This is not something I would just offload to someone else. This fits my needs. It probably doesn't fit yours, but take this thought process and see if you can make a program that does fit your needs.